What's up, guys? Today we are going to be treating a topic which is very particular to me, and I've got lots of emotional attachment when it comes to this band, which has been in my life since I was a teenager. When I got into death metal, you might know already that my first love into death metal was Cannibal Corpse. But when I expanded my knowledge about this brilliant genre, then I started to discover other bands. One of those first bands I discovered was Morbid Angel. Reading magazines, which were my go-to when I wanted to listen to something new, was what really expanded and furthered my experience and knowledge about this type of music, which is not for everyone, of course, but for people like me who loved it since the beginning. Then Morbid Angel was one of those bands that were always either interviewed or reviewed or touring, and whenever there was an extreme festival, there were headliners all the time. So Altars of Madness is a very, I wouldn't even say a cherry on the pie because it's the beginning of their career, but I always ranked this album the first when it comes to my choice of their albums. So Altars of Madness was released in 1989, and Immortal Rights is what opens the album in the best possible way. Riffs are incredibly great. So solos are by Trey Azagtut, I think is the pronunciation. David Vincent is at the vocals, playing the bass guitar, and there's another guy called Brunel, his surname, I can't remember the name, which I think he features just in this album. And then there's Pete Sandoval, who is at the drums, a great drummer. Immortal Rights is the opener, then there's Blasphemy, there's Chapel of Ghouls, there's Damnation, all those songs which are very fast-paced at times, and solos are very unexpectedly played because they're not like, there's an intro, then there's the pre-chorus, there's the chorus, and then there's the solos or whatever it is. You know, the structure of these solos is not classical or traditional structure of in general death metal songs, where they're normally whenever you're listening to this type of genre. And I must admit, they caused in me such a great energy when I listened to them for the first time when I was probably 17 years old. I remember actually, yes, I ordered Altars of Madness and Symbolic by Death, and obviously I'm talking about probably the best albums in the genre. I ordered both of them, and as soon as they arrived, I can't remember which one was the first which I listened to, but I remember enjoying both in a very nice way. Obviously they're both totally different, because Symbolic is an album where Death swerved to another direction, and there's the first album of Morbid Angel that resembles a little bit Scream Bloody Gore, which is the first album by Death, but it goes beyond, and the lyrics are very dark and I would say satanic. That's why I would say that Morbid Angel are something that then brought me into the black metal, because they are those, it's a death metal band as well as Dayside, that start to being very deep into mysticism and stuff like that. Therefore they sparked my interest, because then I moved and I went further and further to discover bands which were dark in their lyrics because I always found it fascinating. So you can start to hear some screams here a little bit, although David Vincent's voice is between growly and screamy. And then the further he goes with the albums in the future, around 1991 and 1992, 1993 with Covenant, he drops his tone a little bit down and further, and then they also take another direction. Instead of being direct and in your face like Altars of Madness, they start to be a little bit slower and more technical, and to some extent in the future they did something which I not always appreciated, but there's lots of stuff that I value a lot. In premise, Covenant, after Altars of Madness of course, and then there's another album that sparked my interest, and it's called Formulas Fatal to the Flash. But David Vincent, who was the the first vocalist, is not here because Steve Tucker is replacing him. And I must admit, he did such a good job to replace him. I guess that David Vincent left the band because there was a little bit of no, I wouldn't say argument, but Trey was the one who wanted to write the lyrics, and then David Vincent probably was trying to take another direction with his lyrics. Therefore, Trey complained about that, he didn't like it, and they must have split. But obviously, there might be just a speculation. It's something I heard. I'm not ready from a reliable source, so don't take it for true. Yeah. But you can see and listen and hear the difference between the first part of the Morbid Angel era, which in my opinion, ends with Covenant, and then from Domination onwards they take another direction, which I like, but not always. But let's go back to Altars of Madness, which is insanely beautiful. So here the riffs are typically, I would say, thrash, but taken to another level, and there's lots of technical stuff here, the solos, the voice, the drums. It's all a combination of beauty and rage. The lyrics again are very primordial, and there's lots of raw stuff that you can experience when you put the CD on your stereo, if you are still one of those people who are listening to analog stuff like me. Although I moved a little bit into the digital world, but I'm still thinking into the analog way. Therefore, I created this channel because my thoughts into music are always based on albums and singles and years when things were released and what was happening in that kind of year. So it works like that. So therefore I always remember when that particular album was released and what the background was. I also used to read the gossip about the bands as well, because the interviews were such an important part of my development as a teenager into this world of screams and ghouls and lyrics and darkness and long hair, spiky stuff and leather and all those cliches that I always loved. To me, it means a lot, and obviously combining the aggressive music with that kind of image, it's what made metal, and especially extreme metal, very peculiar and something to be cautious about, because as I said, it's not something that sticks to everyone, but if it does, then it will possess you for the rest of your life, and rightly so. Okay guys, so Altars of Madness, I know I've diverged a little bit, so I've diverted a few times. There's lots of quote-unquote lots of brackets, but this is the beauty of my channel. So there's freedom everywhere. Comments down below, don't forget it. It's very important to me. I'll definitely reply when I see the comments, and I will let you know what my next topic will be, unless you let me know which one is the topic that you want me to talk about. That would be great. Okay, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button below, guys. Have a lovely continuation to whatever you're doing, if you're doing something. Otherwise, good night.